This is Jilliana at Ranicar-Breese, and I have the pleasure of meeting Brian Huggett, who is the originator of a short humour website, to which I have submitted
lots.
Yeah, quite a few, about 30, because some of my stories are pretty humorous. Now, Brian, and you've contributed to your own website. Now, do tell me about your website and how you came about creating it. How many years ago was it?
Well, it first started off back in 2002. I met with an old friend who I'd known at school, and we'd done a lot together in the old days, and he was running a website and he wanted something to brighten it up to get more people coming to it. So we hatched between us the idea of having a prize for 500-word short humour, which we called short humour, a £10 a month prize.
Right.
And so that's we named the prize actually the Booger Prize.
Booger, not bugger.
No, that would have been an interesting
The Bugger Prize.
BOOGEI. It's a bit like Booker. So we
Yes,
immediately wrote to the Booker Prize organisers demanding that they change the name of the Booker Prize so that avoid confusion with our prize. Well, I mean, obviously that was a silly thing to do. We were expecting no response, or at very best a negative response. We
But
could
you
publish.
didn't.
Within 3 weeks, and I had no inkling this was on the cards, within 3 weeks they changed the name of the Booker Prize to the Man Booker Prize. Now, some people have said this is just pure coincidence, but I like to think it was the seriousness with which short humour was being taken in those days.
And did they write back to you?
No, we never heard a word from them. They just, but I suppose once they changed the name of the prize, they thought, well, that's satisfied them. They'll write again if they've got another problem. But so we ran the prize for a couple of years, but then the website closed in 2004. But while it was open, we were looking at the entries and doing our best to select a winner, which is a difficult thing to do because I don't like judging other people's work.
Yeah. And it was only £10. I think the Booker Prize was more than £10.
Back in 2002, £10 was £10. You see, these days you can't get a cup of coffee.
I was just going to say two cups of coffee.
But I started to write short humour myself under the pen name of Swan Morrison. I chose that because I live in the village of Swanmore.
This is Hampshire, isn't it?
It's in Hampshire. It's near Winchester. In fact, an interesting aside, I'd written quite a lot and published a couple of books before I really grasped. I walked past a road quite regularly in Swanmore called Leacock Close, and it was a while before I grasped that was named after a gentleman called Stephen Leacock. Now, he was born in Swanmore, and some of the people watching this won't have heard of him. I bet everybody who's Canadian who's watching this will have heard of him. When in his heyday between about 1915, 1929, he was the best known English-speaking humorist in the world, and they say that more people had heard of Stephen Leacock than heard of Canada.
Wow.
And he happened to have been born in the same village, so I bought his books and read them, and it was amazing.
And they inspired you?
Well, I think inspired isn't quite the word, because I was well under full sail by then. But there was many sort of similarities in a way. I mean, he was a great writer, but he's got a book, for example, called Literary Lapses, which is short humour. And some of the ideas that he used, because these are, the sort of ideas you would write in comedy are all around the place, were quite similar to what I was doing. I mean,
so he was an Englishman who went to Canada?
Yes, I think so. Actually, how he became Canadian, I'm not entirely sure, but I think he emigrated with his parents at a relatively early age. I'm not sure that he actually wrote anything in Swanmore. But it was fascinating that he was involved. I mean, I've never felt the inclination to contact a writer, But had he been alive, and he I believe died before I was born, which makes it slightly difficult to contact him. I think I probably would have written to him because I just felt we would have had some kind of contact.
Yes. Yeah.
So there you go. Who knows? Maybe I was inspired by his ghost before I knew he existed.
Right. Well, you've written, you said 300 stories?
Well, yeah, there are more than that now. I mean, when I'd written 100 and I didn't have anything to do with them, it was about 2008. And so that's when I created the short humour site, which can be found just by putting the short humour site.
Well, I've written about 200 short stories, which I call vignettes, which are up on my website.
Oh, yes.
Jilliana.com, yes. And you've got a website.
That's right. It's called the Short Humour Site, as I say. And in 2008, because of 100 of my stories, I started a site with those. And also I wrote to the people who'd contributed to the original Booger Prize and said, can I use your stories on my new website? So many of them that I could contact, all of them I could contact, said yes.
Yeah. Have you actually met any of them?
Yes, but not very many. I've met a couple, but it's geography for the most part, because if you think about it, the stories have come in from almost everywhere in the world. I mean, sort of...
Well, we've just met because I invited you to the radio, to Brighton and Hove Community Radio. Great. So we've just done a radio show. So it took you only 1.5 hours to get here by car.
It did indeed, especially first thing this morning. Yeah. Even with the Chichester roundabouts.
Why, is that a complicated roundabout?
No, they get full of traffic.
They get what?
Full of traffic.
Oh, right. Anyway, so, where did you put that book?
Which book?
The one you've given me.
It's on the seat behind you.
Oh, okay.
But so in the end, I've been following on from that. I continued writing and also asking for people. Anybody is welcome to contribute a story to the Short Humour Site. I wrote another 100 and then published them in books of 100. So the first.
So people can find you on Google. Can't they?
I mean, just put in. I mean, on Amazon, anywhere else you can buy books from. Really.
Yes, under Swan Morrison.
Under Swan Morrison. Yeah. Right. I mean, it ended up being a good name in one respect. It was lucky I didn't pick John Smith. Swan Morrison is unique. So it's quite easy to find stuff by me.
Bit like my name. My name is unique too. I'm the only one in the world with my name.
This may be a trick for writers to use.
Yeah,
to make sure they call
Swan
themselves.
Morrison is the only one in the world.
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, very good.
So I think there is an American actress called something Swan Morrison, but mostly I come up very high in the searches because of the lack of any other alternatives. But so you can do that anyway. But anyway, I published 2 more books of 100 short stories. The first one was called A Man of Few Words, which I thought was quite a good title. Because
and then the
second one was called A Man of a Few More Words. And the third one was called A Man of Yet a Few More Words.
Oh, very good. Have you got another one coming up?
No, because, I started writing longer stuff. To be fair, as the book, the one I gave you, which is the third of the trilogy, a lot of the stories are over 500 words. I've sort of for myself, abandoned that to some extent. So you can see the book, it's a lot thicker. Yeah. But I have continued to write other stuff, which is all on my website. Mostly in recent times. It has been. I've been writing for 1 or 2 other sites on the web, which have been satirical news sites. So there's been been satire and stuff more than some of the more innocent comedy. I mean, I read 2 stories this morning. Yeah. On the radio show, and they're quite amusing. They're kind of quite innocent and
do you watch humour on television or YouTube?
On and off. I mean, I think most of the ideas I used to get, I've not written that much. Well, I've written other things since. But I think most of the ideas probably didn't come from the formulations that other people have had of humour on the.
I mean, did you find
just from other things?
Spike Milligan humorous? Did you like?
I think Spike Milligan broke a mould and did something. I mean, I don't like to talk about individuals particularly because I do think that there's a tremendous amount of talent and inventiveness out there. If people say who is your favourite writer or something, I never like to answer that because. I see a huge amount of stories, some written or coming into the site, some by writers who have been writing for years, and others by people who haven't written very much at all. And you can see differences between the two. What the experience sort of adds to the way things are writing. In terms of comic ideas, it doesn't. And so there is a lot of talent out there, a lot of ideas, a lot of good stories, a lot of good novels written by people that nobody has ever heard of. And so I kind of think saying, you know, your favourite writer is such and such might probably, you know, gives too much publicity to the big guys, when you might find that the best book you've ever read has been written by the person next door. And these days, with access to the web, with access to printer-on-demand publishing,
yeah,
a lot of people
we're
are writing
all writers
books
now, aren't we?
Yeah, well, and people sometimes go, oh, everybody's writing, mostly publishers, I think, who are probably going out of business as a result. But it does mean that the talent out there is being reflected, and you can see it. Okay,
well, lovely talking to you, and thank you very much. And I wish you luck with your next book and your next collection.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Pleasure.